Are you having more frustration than you would like? Do you ever wish that you can go from feelings of frustration to feelings of inner peace? I'm Deepa, and I'm the Creative Mystic. And today I'm going to share with you, one, what creates frustration, but two, most importantly, the spiritual truth that when you apply it will transform you from one person of frustration to one with inner peace. So let's get going. All right, so let's talk about frustration. I don't know if you have great frustration or just occasional frustration, okay? But frustration, great frustration or even occasional frustration, whenever you get to that point of frustration, right, where you feel like, I can't deal with this anymore. You feel like screaming maybe you don't, but you can feel it. You feel unhappy with what's going on in your life. That unhappiness, those are all signs of frustration, okay? But you just feel like, I can't deal with this anymore. And you don't like the response that you feel kind of out of control. Because most of the time when you're frustrated, or anybody's frustrated, you feel a bit out of control, right? Like, I just can't change this. Well, what I want you to get is that feeling, whether it's you have great frustration and you have it frequently, like most of the time, or whether you have great frustration occasionally, but that point of where you just, it doesn't come out of nowhere, okay? The reason that you have it is because you're not listening to yourself. You're diminishing something, the importance of something. You're saying, okay, maybe this person did it one time, and okay, one time that's all right. And you say, okay, and then, okay, it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. I know, because I used to be there, okay? I used to be to the point where I didn't acknowledge when somebody did or something didn't work out the way I wanted it, was that I would say, that's all right, it's okay. And what happens when you keep diminishing and not acknowledging, and you keep going, oh, it's only once, and then once turns into 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and pretty soon you're like, and you get frustrated at the person or frustrated at the situation, the event. And so your frustration might be at your commute to work, okay? Maybe you're driving in traffic and you're stuck in traffic again. You're just like, hey, I can't stand this. What you're not listening to and acknowledging is your truth about you don't want a job maybe that you have to commute to work, I should say. You want something where you can maybe go to work where there's no traffic. Or maybe you don't even want a job that you go to. Maybe you want to work at home. Or maybe you don't even want a job. Maybe you want to have your own business. See, so like for me, I don't like commuting in traffic. Driving in traffic is not fun for me. So what do? Created a business where my commute is walking downstairs. I work out of my home. And it's our own business, so I get to create my own hours. And that's what works for me. So it's about, how do you actually listen to what's going on with you? Are you diminishing something when it actually means more to you than not? Now, I'm not recommending that you go take anything out on the other person that's not maybe listening to you or doing what your request is. What you want to look at is what's going on inside of you. What belief do you have? What emotional wound do you have that something's pushing on? So, for instance, for me, I used to have a big emotional wound about not feeling like I was important to people. And because of that, if somebody kept canceling on me, it would push on my wound. And I would, at the time, way back when, would say stuff like, well, you keep canceling, blah, 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 and make it about something's wrong with them, when in actuality, it's what's going on with me, okay? And so I learned that, this pushes on my wound of, like, I'm not important in people's lives. And so what I started to learn to do was, if, like, somebody canceled a lot, I would just say to them, this doesn't work for me to keep making an appointment and you keep canceling like 90% of the time. So let's not make any more appointments. If you want to get together and you happen to be free and you want to get together with me, call me. And if I happen to be free, we can get together. And if I'm not, that's okay. So that's what worked for me back then, because I realized that wound got pushed on and I need to take care of myself. So frustration comes out of not listening to and acknowledging, the things when they're small. See, great frustration comes because you're ignoring things that really are not okay with you. And you say it is because you don't want to be like maybe too judgmental, and I'm not telling you to be judgmental, obviously, but you think what you're going to do is being judgmental. Maybe you do it because you've been told that you're supposed to not make waves, and speaking up would be making waves. It could be a number of reasons why you do it, but the first thing you want to do if you want to start to diminish the frustration in your life is to start to become aware. Now, I talk about awareness all the time, okay? But you have to become aware of the little things, I'm not really okay with that. The little, that happened once, and okay, one time is okay, but then you let it go again and again and again, and pretty soon it's happened 5-6 times, and you're frustrated at the person, okay? You have to catch it on the first or second time so that you don't have great frustration. And what do you have to do? You have to either, if it's with a person, communicate, not in a blaming way, but communicate how you feel. Like, I feel unimportant when you keep canceling. So I understand maybe you have a really busy life, but I don't want to keep making appointments with you until you feel like you can really keep them. And then you go from there. And if it's, like I said, frustration with commuting to work, you look at, maybe I don't really want to commute to work during commute time. And you look and you make a conscious change. But that awareness is what helps you when you can acknowledge that these things are actually not working for you, because that's what builds frustration, great frustration. Okay? Now we're going to talk about the spiritual truth that can actually transform you from one of frustration to one of inner peace. Okay? Because the awareness of what's creating the frustration is just the first step. So the one spiritual truth that will take you from frustration to inner peace is everything is happening for the betterment of your life. Everything is happening for you. Now you might be thinking, what? How's that a spiritual truth? It is, okay? Spirit, God, Buddha, Allah, the universe, whatever you call your higher power, is always there supporting you and working for you, wanting you to actually achieve your goals and your desires, especially your true heart's desires, is there to want to actually help you and support you. It's higher power always has your back, okay? And everything is happening for the betterment of your life. It is happening to help bring you towards the heart's desires that you have, but you have to start to believe it, even if you can't see it. Now, the reason why you don't believe that everything is happening for the betterment of your life is because you've been programmed to believe, I'll only believe it when I see it. You've heard that saying, right? I'll believe it when I see it, right? So you've been programmed to believe that I'm only going to believe what I see with my eyes, what I can see physically. And you've been taught to not believe in the unseen. But spirit, higher power, God, is unseen with the physical eyes for most people, okay? So we have to help you change your programming. And the way that starts to happen, so you can apply that spiritual truth and have one of the biggest things that every spiritual path talks about is faith. How do you have faith in the unseen? Because faith is having, belief that what you desire, even though you can't see it yet physically, is actually here spiritually, energetically, okay? And when you have frustration, it's because you don't believe that what you desire, what you would like, you can actually have. That's why you diminish the things that are important to you. You don't acknowledge when you have those little things, something that pushes on the wound that maybe you need to heal, but that will help you move towards having that inner peace of accepting what's important to you, of moving forward, okay? And so you have to start to apply this spiritual truth in your life, that everything is happening for you. Now you're probably thinking, how do you apply this? Well, the first thing is to start saying it. That's the first thing you start to do. When I first started understanding this truth, whenever I started to feel a little frustration, I would say, everything is happening for the betterment of my life. Now, before I even knew about this spiritual truth and could acknowledge it, I saw evidence when I looked back at my life in retrospect. It's always much easier in retrospect, right? But in going forward, when not looking back, you have to have faith to go, I know Spirit's with me. I know God's got my back and is helping me to move forward and grow and step into this next step of growth. So many years ago, when I wanted to buy a house before I was 30, I want to tell you this story because I want you to illustrate how everything is happening for your betterment, but you just don't know it because of your attachments of how you think things should show up, okay? So many years ago, when I was in my 20s, I wanted to buy a house before I was 30. And I lived in one of the most expensive housing markets in the United States. It was in the Bay Area in California. And I was saving $50, $100 a month. But at that rate, I wasn't going to buy a house until I was probably in my 40s, with the idea that the housing market never went up. And it did all the time. So, but I just kept saving and affirming that I'm going to buy a house before I'm 30. And what happens? I get laid off from my job. I get knocked off my path to saving that money, and I get laid off. And what did I do? I cried. I was upset. I didn't know what I was going to do. Now, I had money saved, but I didn't want to spend it because that was for my down payment. But so I was upset. How is this going to get me my house before I'm 30, getting laid off from my job? And so, but I just kept moving forward, and I started looking for jobs, marketing jobs, and I'd get several interviews and be down to the last 2 people, and someone else would get the job. Now, as I was on this journey to look for a new job, and even before I got laid off, people would tell me all the time, you should go into outside sales. You'd be really good at it. And I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to do that. That scares me, being straight commission. I don't want to do it. And so I was pushing it away. And when I got laid off, someone else told me that too. And I was still I don't have any experience in that. Why would anybody hire me as an outside salesperson? I don't have any experience in it. I've just done a little bit of taking, sales over the phone at this small company I worked at one point, okay? But at a point when I wasn't getting a job because I kept getting interviews, being down the last 2 people and not getting the job, I thought, what have I got to lose to go to this interview for a sales position? So I go to the sales position interview, and the sales manager talks with me, and within the first half an hour, 40 minutes, she says, I want to hire you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, and she said, I'll pay you a salary for 6 months to help you since you're brand new to outside sales. So I got some money, not a lot, but I got about less than what I was getting paid in my previous job, but more than enough to cover my expenses and food and rent and everything like that. So I thought, well, let me do it. So I get into outside sales and I do it and I give it my all. And within a couple of years, I've more than doubled my income from being a marketing person. And by the next year, I had tripled my income. So I was socking away money, putting it away, and I put the down payment on my house when I was 28. I bought a new house, so I didn't get to move until I was 29. But in retrospect, what I saw and realized was, oh my goodness, I would have never gotten that house if I'd stayed in that marketing career, because it wasn't paying me enough to be able to sock away the down payment and get the down payment together within about a year and a half. And so I saw that, even though I was upset, this was actually the best thing that ever happened to me was getting laid off, because I was too afraid to take that leap into outside sales, having that guaranteed salary. And so that's how Spirit was working for me. Spirit saw, Deepa's too afraid to make this leap. We're going to bump her out so that she'll go ahead and take this risk. And so I want you to start to see that everything, even if it makes you cry, is happening for you. And I'm not telling you not to cry if you need to cry, because wherever you are in your spiritual development, you need to honor that. So if you need to cry, cry about it. But then do the next step, which is, okay, say everything is happening for the betterment of my life. how is this happening for me? I want you to actually ask that question. How is this happening for me? Even if you don't get an answer, just keep affirming that everything is happening for the betterment of my life, and how is this working for me? Because when you start to ask your brain, your consciousness, the right kinds of questions, it will respond with the right answers, and it will help move you and propel you even more forward. So I want you to understand that this spiritual truth will help you to start to see that everything you feel frustrated with is actually going to help propel you forward on a truth that you have that maybe you haven't admitted, or that maybe you've admitted but you don't know how, because that's what happened for me. Was my truth was that I wanted to buy a house before I was 30 without help from my parents, okay? But I didn't know how I was going to do that. And my level of where my consciousness was with my fears, I wasn't willing to move forward with when I had the safe paycheck coming in. And so I had to get laid off to be able to move forward. Now here's the catch with applying this. You have to keep moving forward. You have to start looking at the signs that you're getting that are being presented to you, which is actually Spirit speaking to you through other people, because Spirit was speaking through to me about friends and people, everyone telling me to get a sales job because I'd be really good at it, and I kept negating it. Back then I didn't understand the spiritual truths and how Spirit speaks to us, so I ignored the message of getting the sales job after people sent it to me time and time and time again, until it finally just practically landed in my lap, where a friend said, go to this interview, she wants to hire people, and she hired me on the spot. I didn't have to go through a bunch of interviews to get it, okay? So Spirit was making it, God was making it easy for me as long as I moved forward. And that's the thing, is often when people get frustrated, afraid, they freeze up. Okay, so if you're having a lot of frustration in your life, frustration, the seed is anger. It also is fear. Frustration comes from fear. So if you want to let go of the frustration and move to inner peace, you have to start to acknowledge it. Not ignore and pretend you don't have it, like saying something's okay when it's not, but going, how is this working for me? When something starts to be a little irritant, what button is it pushing on that needs to be either healed, or that I need to make a different choice? Because that's usually what it is you need to make a different choice, like choose to get a different job, or choose to like make boundaries for yourself, that you need to make that choice so you can go to that inner peace. Everything is happening for the betterment of your life. So you start that affirmation, you ask how is it working for you, and the third thing you have to do is move forward on any intuitive inklings, anything that you see repetitive signs. Like I kept getting back then, you should go get a sales job from multiple people multiple times. So it wasn't the same person saying it, because sometimes a family member can say something they think they know better for you when they don't, and they'll repeat it, but it's not. But it might not be true for you, and you shouldn't do it. So you have to look at, is it true or is it fear? That why I'm not acting on something. If it's truth, yay, 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 don't do it. But if it's fear, then you have to look at it. All right? So I'd love to hear in the comments how it works for you with doing this practice to bring you from frustration to inner peace. It is a practice. It's not something that by saying it one time it's going to ultimately get rid of all your frustration. But it is something, if you practice it, the two things I talked about, becoming aware of the little inklings of frustrations, and two, everything is happening for the betterment of my life, practicing that 3-step process with that, you're going to see yourself. Frustration is going to diminish, inner peace is going to grow. All right? If you like what you hear here, please subscribe to my channel, give me a like, a thumbs up, and if you know of anybody who would benefit from this, share it with them. Have a miraculous day, blessings, and I'll see you in the next video.